constitutional crisis if King Charles goes ahead with a meeting with Prince Harry.
Meghan Markle, Prince Archie, and Princess Lilibet are reuniting with King Charles right now in the UK.
Princess Diana's memory alive. While attending Scotty's summer festival in the UK, the Duke of Sussex.
King Charles couldn't put his hand in his pocket and say to his son, I've got you covered.
He wants to be taken as a serious person.
What happened was I was told by somebody very close to Harry that he has accepted the King's kind offer.
A private meeting that somehow became public, a family reunion that triggered whispers of a constitutional crisis, and right at the center of it all, King Charles quietly opening the doors of Highgrove House to Prince Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet after 4 years of distance that was never just about geography. Think about that timing. Think about that choice, because while the world was being handed a sanitized statement, something far heavier was unfolding behind it, two realities colliding at once. A grandfather meeting his grandchildren and an institution calculating its limits. The details were scarce, almost suspiciously so. Buckingham Palace offered a statement so controlled it felt engineered to stop questions before they even formed. King Charles and Queen Camilla hosted Prince Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet. No elaboration, no images, no timeline, just a location, Highgrove House, and that single detail changed everything. This wasn't Buckingham Palace. This wasn't Windsor Castle. Highgrove belongs to King Charles personally, not the monarchy. That choice wasn't accidental. It was a signal. This was not the crown speaking. This was King Charles acting as a father.
First time in 4 years. Taking place in the English countryside, Prince Harry and his father put their differences aside.
And then the leaks began, carefully, slowly, almost like someone was feeding the story in controlled fragments. Queen Camilla was there. Meghan and the children were already in Europe. The trip wasn't spontaneous, it was deliberate. Every movement, every decision pre-planned. And then the line was drawn. No photos, no details, nothing beyond the confirmation. What happened inside Highgrove stays inside Highgrove. That kind of silence doesn't calm a story, it ignites it, because 4 years is not just time, it's distance, memory, absence. Archie and Lilibet had not been in the same room as King Charles in 4 years. 4 years where relationships don't just pause, they either grow or disappear. And in this case, they didn't grow, they froze. Until now. Strip everything away, the headlines, the speculation, the politics, and what remains is brutally simple. King Charles finally saw Archie and Lilibet again, but simplicity doesn't mean clarity. Not here.
Today, that King Charles and Queen Camilla hosted Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and the couple's 2 children this afternoon.
If this was truly private, why confirm it at all? That question sits at the center like an unanswered accusation, because the palace knew something. They knew someone would talk. Staff would notice, movements would be tracked, sources would whisper, and instead of letting the story leak out of their control, they seized it. One statement, one version, one controlled narrative. That's not openness, that's containment. But the real twist? Prince Harry reportedly made a promise before stepping inside Highgrove, a direct assurance to King Charles. No interviews, no comments, no leaks. Nothing from inside that room would ever reach the outside world.
This is where Prince Harry's staying. Oh wait, just kidding. Not where Prince Harry's staying.
Isn't this a complete circus?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That promise says everything and nothing at the same time. Because promises like that don't exist where trust is strong, they exist where trust has already been broken. The fact it had to be said, agreed, understood, tells you exactly how fragile that moment was. King Charles opened the door. Prince Harry agreed to silence. A quiet exchange, almost transactional. You get the meeting, I get the silence. And while all of this unfolded quietly at Highgrove, Prince William was somewhere else entirely. Not hidden, not absent quietly. Visible public at a polo match in Windsor with Princess Catherine. No overlap, no meeting, no accidental encounter. That absence wasn't an oversight, it was a statement. Whatever happened inside Highgrove did not include Prince William, and it was never meant to.
Grandchildren, there's a big sleepover at Balmoral. They were invited to go to that. They were also invited.
That destroys one version of the story instantly. The idea that this reunion signaled reconciliation? Gone. What happened at Highgrove was contained, isolated, isolated, personal, a grandfather and grandchildren. Nothing more, nothing less. Because the distance between Prince William and Prince Harry didn't shrink that day, it held exactly where it has been. And then there's the contradiction no one can ignore. For months, Prince Harry insisted the United Kingdom was too dangerous for Meghan and the children. Security wasn't adequate. Protection was non-negotiable. That argument became the barrier, the explanation, the justification for everything. And then suddenly, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet arrived. Quietly, without the security, demands being met. The visit happened, and nothing went wrong. That gap between what was said and what actually happened doesn't just raise questions. It fractures the entire narrative. Either the risk was never what it was claimed to be, or something changed so dramatically that an impossible visit became reality overnight. Neither explanation sits comfortably. Meanwhile, another layer was unfolding in parallel. Prince Harry's legal battle collapsed in a courtroom. A case built on certainty unraveled under scrutiny. Claims didn't hold. Evidence didn't support. And in the UK, losing doesn't just hurt reputations, it comes with a cost. A financial one, a public one, a permanent one. And suddenly, everything starts to connect. The meeting, the timing, the silence, the promise, the contradictions, the absence of Prince William, the presence of Queen Camilla, the legal defeat, the security argument collapsing under its own weight. Each detail alone looks manageable. Together, they form a pattern that doesn't resolve, it tightens. Because this was never just about a reunion. It was about control, about narrative, about what stays private and what inevitably leaks out. King Charles got his moment with Archie and Lilibet. That part is real. But surrounding that moment is something far more unstable: questions about trust, credibility, and what happens next. And now everything comes down to one thing. One promise made inside Highgrove. A promise that nothing would be said. A promise that has history working against it. A promise that is already being watched more closely than anything else in this entire story. That quiet afternoon between King Charles, Prince Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet didn't resolve the tension, it highlighted it. Because while one part of the family sat together inside a private room, another part of the same family was deliberately positioned somewhere else, living a completely separate narrative. Prince William wasn't just absent, Prince William made absence visible. Princess Catherine stood beside Prince William in full public view, reinforcing a divide that no statement could soften. The separation is no longer subtle, it's structural. And that's where the word nobody likes to say starts getting louder behind closed doors constitutional. Because this isn't just about relationships anymore. This is about roles, titles, and the fragile balance of what the monarchy is supposed to represent versus what it's currently forced to manage. Katie Nichols didn't raise that word casually. Katie Nichols pointed directly at the fault lines: Prince Harry's role as a counselor of state, Prince Harry's position on official platforms, Prince Harry's place in the line of succession. These aren't symbolic questions. These are operational ones. And the longer those questions stay unanswered, the heavier they become. At the same time, another pattern has become impossible to ignore. Jackie Weaver described it bluntly: a breakdown happening in plain sight. Not one mistake, not one contradiction. A sequence. Announcements, reversals, demands, withdrawals, and then quiet actions that don't match any of the previous positions. A story that moves forward, then snaps back, then moves again, never settling into anything stable. And that instability points somewhere deeper. Because behind every public move, behind every statement, there are two forces pulling in different directions. Harry and Meghan are no longer moving as one clear strategy. The tension between what Harry is saying and what Meghan is doing, or what Meghan represents versus what Harry insists, keeps surfacing in ways that no amount of careful messaging can fully hide anymore. That's why Highgrove matters so much. Not because it fixed anything, but because it exposed how little has actually been fixed. King Charles chose the personal moment. King Charles chose to see Archie and Lilibet. King Charles chose that over forcing a decision that would have immediate institutional consequences. But those consequences didn't disappear, they paused. And pauses don't last forever, because every unresolved question is still sitting exactly where it was before that meeting. The court loss didn't disappear. The security argument didn't repair itself. The Diana narrative didn't suddenly align with reality. The distance between Prince William and Prince Harry didn't shrink by a single inch, and the constitutional pressure didn't ease, it intensified quietly away from cameras. That's the contradiction that makes this story so difficult to contain. Something can be deeply meaningful and completely insufficient at the same time. King Charles seeing Archie and Lilibet after 4 years matters. It matters on a human level that no strategy can replace. But meaning doesn't equal resolution. And that's the part nobody can ignore anymore. Because now the entire situation has shifted onto something far more fragile than titles or legal arguments or public opinion. It shifted onto a promise. One promise made by Prince Harry to King Charles inside a private house that the world wasn't supposed to know about. A promise of silence. And that promise isn't just about discretion, it's about credibility. It's about whether the cycle that has defined every previous moment repeats itself again. Because history doesn't disappear just because a new agreement is made. History sits there, waiting, measuring, comparing. Everyone is watching that promise. The palace is watching. The people around Prince Harry are watching. The people who have followed every step of this story are watching. Because if that silence holds, it suggests something has changed at the core. But if it breaks, it confirms that nothing has. And that's why this story isn't ending, it's resetting. Every path forward now leads back to that single moment at Highgrove. Not the reunion itself, but what comes after it. Because the next move doesn't belong to statements or headlines or controlled narratives anymore. It belongs to whether Prince Harry keeps quiet or doesn't. And when that answer comes, because it always does, it won't just explain the reunion. It will decide everything that follows.